Hello and welcome to Transition New England. I am your fabulous host, Gigi Harrison. Today, I wanted to talk about roadmaps to transitioning. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Gigi, there is no such thing as a goddamn roadmap to transitioning. And believe me, I am adamantly aware of that. And that's why I want to talk about that today. So everything I'm going to talk about, I'm going to try to leave some broad stroked comments in the description below to help everyone. So let me dive in. So, like with everything else, there is no one size fits all. There is no roadmap to transitioning. And there is no playbook, like I say to everyone who's considering transitioning. There is no playbook. But what there is being as informed as possible. So, what does that mean? Being informed means doing the research. And here on Transition New England, I'm going to try to help guide that search based off of where I came from, having gone from being basically, as I would call it, in the closet trans woman as a gay man for 20 years. I'm going to try to help the community kind of bridge what would be the most rational steps to take in the process. So step number one would be you have to have an honest conversation with yourself. And I know what some of you are probably saying. Gigi, I already know. I've known for years. Well, that's all well and good. But with that being said, there are also prices to pay. And when I say prices to pay, allow me to elaborate. When you transition, you are going to probably wind up losing friends. Unfortunately, that is a hard reality. I experienced it as much as I tried to explain it because they didn't understand me. They didn't understand the journey. They didn't understand what it was I was trying to do. Unfortunately, I had a lot of friends walk away. And I was okay with that because when I came out as a gay man 24 years ago, I had gone through that. So I was okay with that. And amazingly enough, when you start transitioning, you kind of find your groove. You find your voice. Believe it or not, people are going to say I'm full of malarkey. I guarantee you, if you're true to yourself, you find your voice, like I did. Number two, and these are things that I really would like to elaborate on in later videos, but I kind of want to give just some key points to kind of start those conversations. So number two, if you do not have a therapist or counselor, I highly, highly, highly recommend finding one. And here is the reason why. They will become your advocate. You have to shop around first because there is no, first meeting, that's it, you two click and you move on. Doesn't happen. Again, this is where you have to ask hard questions. And in this case, not of yourself, but of the person that you're paying the however many dollars an hour that you're talking to your therapist about. So that would be my second step. And that is, in fact, exactly what I did, was I went and reached out to a therapist. Now, full disclosure, which I'm going to leave certain details out, I actually sought my therapist, wonderful, wonderful therapist, who I'm surprised she hasn't killed me by now. Tammy had been a real huge supporter. But you have some therapists, they may not see it that way. In my case, I also have ADHD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and panic attacks. Again, shopping for a therapist, that will be a separate video because that really does get into a lot of nitty-gritty about making the most informed decisions, which brings me to number 3, informed decisions about what type of transitioning do you want to do. when I say what types of transitions, do you just want to, the hair, the makeup, the clothes, or do you want to take the next steps in the process, like myself, and go on HRT? And that in itself is a very, very confusing arena, which, again, my personal opinion, is wrought with a lot of misinformation. And it was amazing. There was a lot I learned through the process, and there was not one single decision I did not make without consulting the medical experts. So, which, again, you've got to ask yourself, how do you want to tackle this? And this is where your therapist, if you two are on the same page, you mesh, this is, I can't tell you how valuable this will be for you, because that therapist, if you two truly connect, will have the ability to hold the mirror to you. Even though step number one was to have that conversation with yourself and to get, kind of be real with yourself. But as, some people would say, to a doctor who has himself as a patient, has a fool for a patient. And that's where the therapist comes in. With that being said, I want to stipulate there is no timeline to anything. This is at your own pace. So if someone tells you, well, Gigi, I thought that, this is going to happen relatively fast, it's a fallacy. It's a complete fallacy. I can tell you that one right now. So number 3, if you do decide to go on HRT, you need to get with an endocrinologist. I know in a lot of states right now, that is going to be extremely difficult. Again, I really don't want to go into the politics of that, because I'm going to leave that for the Young Turks, Jesse Dollimore, and his lovely wife, Brittany Page, Farron Cousins, the 3 that I normally watch on a regular basis. I love you, Farron. I love you, Jesse. Love you, Brittany. Just got to say. But let's assume for a minute, because I'm just talking the general roadmap in terms of what do you do? Because these are all questions I've been asked over the last 4 years. So I apologize if this seems a little bit vague, but I kind of wanted to start the discussions around those. So, endocrinologist. Well, for those that are not aware, the endocrinologist actually works with the hormones and the hormones that the brain helps to produce, because you're going to be looking at, if you're a trans man, going on estrogen blockers and then starting your testosterone treatments. If you're a trans woman, it's going to be the opposite way around. And to my trans brothers in the community, if there's something I've missed in that, I am very, very sorry, and I would ask you people to please keep me honest. Because I know about the trans women's side. On the trans male side, I'm going to do the best I can with the knowledge I have. So, again, for my trans brothers and sisters in the community, actually my trans brothers in the community, you're going to be on estrogen blockers and then be taking testosterone. For the trans women, it's going to be the T blockers, and then it's going to be the estradiol. And then once you're at a certain point, when you would start the progesterone. But again, you've got to work with either a licensed endocrinologist or nurse practitioner that handles endocrinology. Again, I am fully aware of the political climate today. I wish it was a better environment. I really wish it was. Best I can do is try to guide you based off of my own experiences. So let's proceed. 4 would be working on your comfort levels. And again, I go back to number 2, working with a therapist on transitioning in your personal life, going from your birth name to your chosen name. How do you want to go about looking? For my trans men in the community, obviously you are going to try to be less feminine if not completely non-feminine, and be more masculine for my trans women in the community, you are obviously going to want to be more feminine, less masculine. So, which leads me to then, how do you present yourself? And there's a lot of ideas, especially for trans women in the community, that I could give you based on my own personal experiences. For example, my hair today, I am wearing a topper, but the rest of this is mine because I was cursed with horrible genes, unfortunately, when it came to hair. Thanks a lot, people. Anyways, I digress. My hair, I did, and I'm not saying this is true for everybody, I did spend a little bit more money than probably some people would want to, but me personally, I wanted to get as close to as if this was my own hair, because it is a little bit of a vanity thing for me. And that's something that you kind of have to talk, again, you have to talk to yourself about this, as you start out. Obviously, there's an investment in everything. How much are you willing to do right then and there? Because there are some people that spend all this money and without realizing some of the pitfalls that they fall into, or basically they wind up not liking what they got into. So that would be my number 4. So my hair, for example, a wonderful, wonderful salon in Melrose, Mass, called Noella's, where that is their specialty. Hair pieces, extensions. The women at Noella's, and again, I am not sponsored by them. By any stretch of the imagination, I'm not sponsored by them. I'm giving them a shout out because this was, again, my experience. I did the research. I found a salon that I fell in love with, and I love every single one of the ladies there because they always make you feel welcome, which brings me to number 5. When you start presenting yourself as the gender you know you are, the pep talks. And when I say the pep talks, I'm talking about, and again, this goes back to number 2, when you talk to your therapist, the pep talks are about how do you start? How do you deal with people asking you questions? How do you handle, which bathroom do I use? Because that is, again, I know I said I wasn't going to get into the politics, but that is a problem that's becoming more and more prevalent in the country today. And unfortunately, we're in the 21st century, and this is still an issue for the community. So that's what I mean by the pep talks. In my case, I had the luxury of being able to work from home. So I was able to ease into it and start wearing the topper. And then when I started going to the client sites, presenting myself as Gigi. And one of the things that I set out to do early on was to try to make it as comfortable for everybody. So that leads me to number 5, comfort level. It's not just about you. And what do I mean by that? And again, we will talk about this in further videos, but for now, when I say comfort levels, make it okay to have the conversations like I'm doing today. I can give you a perfect example real quickly. I had a client, and this was in St. Paul, Minnesota, the last time I was there. They originally met me as my cis male version about a year prior, and then shortly thereafter, a year later, here I am at the client site in St. Paul as Gigi. My client, I have to say, was very, 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 very respectful. One individual, God love her, she was a sweetheart. She tried to do the right thing, and I know she did. And I told her, I'm not going to get hung up on pronouns because you met me originally as a cis male. Here I am transitioning. I don't want you to worry if you accidentally call me by the wrong pronoun. So she said, well, can you help me? What would you prefer? And I said, okay, she would be perfect. But I said, if you slip, I don't want you to worry about it because you're trying. And that's all I can ask. Of course, we go up to the 18th floor to get my badge, and I never said a word to her because I know she tried, and I loved her to death because she was a really amazing person. She called me he. So That's what I mean by comfort level. That you have to make it comfortable for people as well. And I don't expect everyone to understand that just yet. But just my own example alone. I had to make it okay for them to make the mistake, because you know what? It's transition. It's everyone's transitioning with you, especially people that have known you for years, which was my exact situation. And I have to tell you, by going about it that way, and one of my best friends has a fabulous way of putting it. I do not get hung up on pronouns, honey, so long as you call me a human. And I'm going to end this video with just that. We are all human beings. The only right answer, I almost said there's no wrong answer, the only right answer is by attempting and succeeding, or failing and learning, taking a stab at it. So I know very broad strokes in this discussion, but I kind of wanted to lay the framework out as to how I went about it, because I tried to go about my transition, like I said, very methodically. First off, having the discussion with myself, saying, am I ready to do this? Secondly, finding a counselor. And in later videos, I'm going to allude to some of the other important aspects of having that counselor, because when we start talking about bottom surgery, orchiectomies, breast augmentation, all the other gender-affirming medical care, insurance companies require you to have also documented psychological assessments. So do yourself the favor. Start those discussions now. Start working with the mental health professionals now. Because I'm going to tell you that you are going to hit a lot of roadblocks later on down the road if you do not start those discussions and start having those sessions. Because you're going to find out, it's kind of like homework that you've been doing over the course of however long. You will find out that that is the best thing that you could do for yourself, if anything, even before you seek an endocrinologist. So I'm going to end the video there. As always, if you like what I do, please click subscribe. Again, give me a like. Please feel free to leave any comments below or questions. Again, I just ask that everything be respectful for the community. I will also leave a link to my email address in the description below. I'm going to say tout à l'heure. And remember, my little cherubs, it's not trashy, but it's classy. Love you all. Take care. I'll see you on the flip side.